Welcome to Our Town, a 30-minute podcast brought to you by Best Bark Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks.
This is Andy Ockershausen, and this is Our Town, and we have the distinct pleasure today to talk to a very, very famous Washington advertising executive who is now one of Washington's leading salespeople, and he's been my pal for many, many years, and that's Howard Bomstein.
Good morning, Andy. How are
Howard,
you?
welcome to Our Town. You're a big part of Our Town because you were born in Our Town.
That is correct. I have to admit, way back in 1948, making me very close to 68 years old.
Oh, my God.
And happy to collect Social Security. God bless the United States government.
That's true. God bless the people. The government is the people of this country.
Thank you.
So, Howard, but where were you born and where?
Actually,
you said Eastern Avenue?
No. My family lived on Roxanna Road off of 16th Street, near 16th Street Circle, which is also
the Gold Coast?
Eastern Avenue, yes, off the Gold Coast, which, by the way, is now where I currently live. I live a mile from where I was born.
Yeah, well, you're in the real super Gold Coast now. I know where you live. And your father was in business, correct?
My father was an immigrant. He came to the United States in 1921. He was 11 years old. He did not speak English.
That's fairly recent, 1921
yes.
to come. I'm serious.
And he graduated from the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy in 1935. When he married my mother, who was also from Baltimore, and they came to Washington because he could earn $5 a week more as a pharmacist in Washington than he could in Baltimore.
Well, one of my dear friends and your dear friends, God, I can't think his name. His father was a druggist too. Jeff Wagner, father went to University of Maryland School, and Jeff's father was a druggist. Doc, they called him Doc. They probably call your father Doc too, right? Wagner.
Actually, my father, in his last stint of his career, he ran the pharmacy at Union Station.
Wow.
And
busy.
And they called him Doc in that situation. But,
natural thing. Well, why did you follow your dad into pharmacy?
Well, this is an interesting fact. My father died in 1948.
That's the year you were born.
That is correct.
I know you told me your father died early, but I thought
he died 12 days after I was born.
Just after you were born. I hope he didn't look at you and
say, "Oh my God, what did I do?"
So
Andy, I have obviously no recollection or relationship or anything like that. So I grew up with a single mom, and my mother remarried when I was 23. So it was my sister.
So you do have a male figure in your life.
Well, she lived in. They got married, moved to Florida.
I know your mom went to Florida.
Right. So
I was almost in the same position by my father because he was gone all the time, and so I grew up with my brothers and sisters, but my father was gone.
He was traveling.
I can relate to what you're saying.
He was traveling for business?
No, he was a ship's captain. And he ran private yachts for people, but that's away from you, Howard.
Okay.
And then you went to high school here in Washington.
Correct. I went to Blair in Silver Spring. My family moved to Montgomery County.
Our town still. And Montgomery County is our town.
In 1961, I think. And so, I went to public schools in Montgomery County and then to University of Maryland.
Wow.
So,
what was your major in Maryland?
Unfortunately, it was not something I was very good at. I majored in something called Information Systems Management, which was computers, and I was terrible at it. And
but you were ahead of your time, right? A lot of people weren't taking that course.
I ended up in advertising, Andy. I mean, what did I know? And to this day, I'm terrible with computers.
All right. Well, don't feel bad. I think it's an age thing. It's probably a lifestyle thing. Now, and where did you meet? And you were married, of course, to the lovely and talented Polly.
Right.
Where did you meet Polly? In school?
No. Polly came to work for me. She was a receptionist at the Bomstein agency.
Wow.
Yes. And so
hey,
she was a very attractive young woman.
We have a lot in common.
And I remember distinctly the day I was smitten with Polly. We were moving the office from 3007 M Street to 2934 M Street, which was literally across the street.
Correct.
And so we're basically carting things from one office to the other. And the new office was the Snyder family of Snyder Supermarket owned that building. And Jerry Snyder, I'm not sure of his last name.
Was it on L Street?
No, the corner of 30th and M. And we were also at the corner of 30th and M, but we literally were going diagonally across the street.
I got you.
And the office had hardwood floors. And I remember as we were moving things in, Polly caught my eye because she was wearing blue jeans and Nike tennis shoes and a sweatshirt. And I just thought, she
laid back.
She was beautiful.
Wow, well, she is beautiful.
And caught my attention. And so there you go.
And you were the boss?
Yes.
We don't want to get into that.
No, we don't.
But and then you have 3 girls.
I have 3 beautiful daughters.
All college graduates.
Thank God. Yes, my youngest. I've finished paying tuition. I lived long enough.
You look heavier than the last time I saw you. You're keeping more of your own money in your pocket.
My wallet now has a few dollars in it, which is a good thing.
But sending 3 girls to great schools, you got to be very proud.
Very much so.
None of them went to Maryland. That's
right.
That shows you they wanted to go to big schools.
No, UVA.
Although now, Howard, in all honesty, and you know this, Maryland has become a very, very important school, tough to get into, and a very high academic stand. It's come up over the years, far better than when you went to school. I went to school right
Andy,
up to WW2.
You know that I'm an adjunct professor at Maryland. I teach marketing and branding there.
All right, I was going to get into that.
And
that is amazing.
I know. When I tell my students I graduated with a 2.56, they kind of look at me like, "Oh, you were the last guy who graduated." Right?
There'll be no more. And but now you're teaching. We're going to get into that. But what led you into this never land of being an adversing agency?
Okay, I can happily tell you that.
You work for Bill Regardi, which
well,
is
actually, let's go back a little before. When I graduated from the University of Maryland in 1970, I kind of goofed off for that summer, and then I was going to be drafted, and I signed up for the Army. And
Our
I enlisted,
Army?
Yes, the United States Army. And I rose to the enormous rank of Specialist 4th Class, and my military occupational specialty, MOS, was a 76 B-20. I was a clerk typist.
Wow.
And I was a clerk typist in a supply unit. And what you learn to do is to count blankets. I'm very good at counting blankets. And every month you would have to count the entire inventory.
You survey blankets and then you have to replace them?
Yeah, how many blankets did you have, and how many mattresses and pillows and sheets and all the inventory.
That's the
Army.
The
supply, correct. And every month you had to type out a report with the number of blankets and sheets and...
What's that got to do with advertising?
It was in triplicate. I'm getting there. So anyway, I came back home and I went to graduate school for a year. I went to Penn State and I took a master's in public administration because I thought I wanted to be a city manager. I was somewhat
not a bad occupation.
Idealistic. And my cousin, Herman Porton, who was actually married to my cousin, was in the home building business. And he ran a company called U.S. Home Page Corporation here in Washington. And I went to talk to him looking for advice. And he said, "Why don't you come to work here? I'll make you an assistant in the marketing department. You can do some statistical analysis for me. You can, just help me out in the marketing world." And
real ground floor.
Very ground floor. $8,000 a year. And then, unfortunately, in the fall of 1974, we had a recession. I don't know if you remember that, but it was pretty severe.
Gasoline.
Yes.
I remember that.
Well, it was President Nixon. And
price
controls, very good. Price controls.
I was there, Howard.
Yeah, and we went on to it led eventually to OPEC and lots of other problems the United States enjoyed. But anyway, so Herman came to me and said, I'm sorry, I've got some bad news, but I have to lay you off because, we're not selling any houses and the market's terrible. And I got to know Bill Regardi because he and Renee had started a company called Housing Data Reports, which was doing research, and U.S. Home was a subscriber, and
That's
so we used the reports. This was in the early 70s. So Bill called me and said, "I would like to have lunch with you. Let's have a chat." And I was really appreciative because I was looking for a job. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So Bill and I talked, and he handed me something called the Home Buyer's Guide, which was from California, and it was given to him by a gentleman, the late Mike Rose. Mike was a builder developer in
know the name
in Prince George's County, and he was from California. And they had and it was about a Reader's Digest size, and it was called the Home Buyer's Guide. So Bill said, "I'm going to start something here and it'll be like this. And will you help me? And I'll pay you to be a consultant." And if it's successful, then you'll have a job. Hell, I didn't have anything to do. I think he offered me $1,500 for, it took us
your consultancy
about 2.5 months to publish the thing. We published in January of 1975, a little more than 40 years ago. And I worked for Bill for the next 20 months with the New Homes Guide.
And the rest is history because you put him on the map.
No, it was the other way
becoming
around.
a millionaire. Actually, his wife did that. But Howard, this is a great story. I'm going to interrupt you right now because I don't want you to finish it because we're going to take a break. We have that so far not gotten into your commercial life yet, but we will. We'll be right back on Our Town with Howard Bomstein.
Hi, Tony Sybil here to tell everybody about our newest restaurant over off New York Avenue. It's called Ivy City Smokehouse, 1356 Oakey Street Northeast, right next to the Heck Company warehouse. It is terrific, and we have the only seafood smoker in the District of Columbia. So when you go to your grocery stores or your delis, ask for Ivy City products. 202-529-3300 or ivycitysmokehouse.com.
This is Our Town, Andy Ockershausen, and we're talking to Howard Bomstein about his launch of his life into the advertising agency business. Howard, it all started with Regardi's, and then what did you do?
During my tenure with Bill at the New Homes Guide, my job was the managing editor and advertising director. And there were only 4 of us working for the magazine. We published 6 times a year, so every other month. And during my tenure, I met a lot of people in advertising. I dealt with many of the agencies: Goldberg Marcassano, Abramson Himmelfarb,
all the names,
Marvin Gersten,
Cal Ehrlich Merrick,
all the agencies in the city. Earl Palmer Brown, and I called upon them to sell advertising because many of them represented home builders. I also visited and would collect the artwork, and so I had an opportunity to meet a lot of people. And during that time, I said, you know what, this is what I want to do. I just woke up and said, it hit me and said, advertising is something I want to do. I'm enamored by it. I think I can do it. And I was 26, 27 years old. Why not? So I talked to a couple of people, and a fellow named John Gavadas, late John Gavadas, and his partner Brad Dunn offered me a job because I had met a lot of home builders, and I thought I could bring them business.
Good contacts, Howard.
A lot of contacts.
All connected in the dots.
So I worked there, unfortunately for them, only 6 months. And I brought them a very large account, Ryan Homes, which they had for a long time. Ryan is now part of NVR, probably is the largest home builder. Dwight Scharr, the largest home builder in the metropolitan area. At the end of 6 months,
a very nice guy, really a good guy,
a very sweet guy, a wonderful guy. So during
business,
at the end of 6 months, they wanted to hire a guy named Rick Barrow as a creative person, and John said, "I can't afford you both, so I think I'm going to have to let you go, but you can take a couple of the accounts you brought in." Not Ryan, of course, but I had Savage Fogarty. And, right. I worked with
Bill Savage is still around in Alexandria.
Savage Fogarty
passed away.
And Guardian Construction.
Wow.
And Guardian Construction was Howard Simon, who and he was another small home builder client. I worked out of my apartment. And then I formed a partnership with a fellow named Steve Lurie. And we were Bomstein Lurie Advertising for about 2.5 years. And then...
and you were located in the city, in our town, correct?
3007 M Street.
Well, at this time, your timing was impeccable because things began to take off after that lull in the 70s, right?
Sure. Well, the 80s. I started the Bomstein Agency in March of 1977. I was 27 years old. And I had a mortgage on a condo, and that was it. I wasn't married. And there was no fear of failure because that wasn't a possibility.
You hadn't done anything yet.
Right. And it took me probably about 5 years before I had any idea what I was really doing. But don't
That's not
tell.
true, Howard. You're too modest.
Promise me you won't tell any of my early clients because I went to school on their dollar.
How many guys can repeat that story? A lot of them in this town. A lot of them went to school on their clients.
And my agency lasted 32 years. And
you had a credit where you had a startup that eventually became, in my estimation, the largest advertising agency in the city of Washington. Of course, there were no other.
Right, I was it. I once had 59 employees working.
I know, you had you had some really good accounts, Howard. I mean, you did a great job.
Yeah, some of my. It
was a great life for you. Something put those girls through college.
You betcha. Washington Gas. The Washington Capitals.
I remember the Pompeii
Oil Company, sure.
I would go visit his office and come out with big bottles of olive oil. The only reason I went.
I have to tell the story about you and I, though, because I think that's so important. So one of my early clients was WRC 980 AM. I worked for a man named Jerry Nachman, who was a very talented, very bright guy. Jerry came here, and WRC was an NBC O&O radio station.
Correct.
And I was his advertising agency, and he and I became very good friends. In fact, I went to his wedding. He came to my wedding.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know
he
you
married
were that close
Nancy
to
White, whose father owned the Chicago Tribune.
The big tall girl that he married.
Right. Uh-huh. And Jerry was just the opposite. He was, he was short and round. But very bright guy, and he actually was. NBC sold WRC and WKYS, and it was no longer.
They got out of the radio business.
They got out of the business, and I lost the account. So I called you as the general manager of WMAL, the other news talk radio station in the market, trying to peddle my services because I had the experience with WRC, who was a distant second, maybe a distant fifth to WMAL at the time.
Out of the box.
But, we did what we could. And you, in your generosity and kindness of your time, pawned me off on some marketing person in WMAL's
by
hierarchy.
Telling you I was doing you a favor, and you didn't want to hear it. That there's no way we're going to make it.
Oh, by the way, Jerry used to refer to the advertising that you created for WMAL as Andy's Home Movies because you used to walk down the station and the camera was walking behind you, and you would talk to the camera about Redskins
Norman Goldberg. Well, he put it on a railroad we shot on film, Howard. That was very expensive.
Anyway,
film.
So they were Andy's Home Movies. So I called upon you, and you pawned me off, and I came to the office, and we met with a marketing person.
Right.
And it was a complete waste of my time, which was fine. About 9 months to a year later, you put together I guess it was a WABA-based slideshow about broadcasting in Washington and the importance of radio in Washington. And you went around to all the agencies for a presentation. And so it was music based, and I think several other important broadcasters in the city came with you and made a presentation. Well, when you came to the Bomstein agency, I refused to sit in the meeting because you had not given me the opportunity to talk to you. So paybacks are hell. So I refused to come into the meeting. My media team came in. I think there were 3 in our media department who came. Maybe an account executive or 2 came in to have the conversation. So I'm in my office, and the presentation finishes, and you come into my office, and you stand in front of my desk, and you go, "What am I, chopped liver?" And I proceed to explain to you why I refused.
And you never got over it until Drew Mills got into the faith and said, "You guys got to settle this thing." And I said, "I'll go down and apologize all over to Howard." But it wasn't intentional. I thought I was doing him a favor because our relationship with Goldberg, once he set me up on doing those films as Andy's Follies, I couldn't refuse Goldberg,
No, it's fine.
But that was a long time ago, Howard. That was
from that point forward, though, Andy, that was probably 1985. You and I have been dear and close
in the early 80s.
Friends.
Right.
And I cherish our relationship, and I am grateful that you spend as much time with me as you do.
Right, we spent a lot of time, Howard. It's been worthwhile for both of us. That's for damn sure.
I have another story to tell you that's way more important than advertising.
But you built this agency to be a huge success. In my say, you won't say that, but I will. You had a lot of employees. You met your wife there. You had wonderful quarters. You had great clients. And all of a sudden, bang, the economy hit a wall. Right. Particularly in your business.
I had
of representing people.
My major clientele at the time included home builders, condominium developers, and automotive. And if you think back to 2008, 2007, 2008, those were the industries. I mean, the American automobile industry was bankrupt.
Absolutely.
General Motors was headed into bankruptcy. Chrysler was into bankruptcy. And every major home builder, and part of that was because
people weren't buying homes because they didn't have jobs.
And also the mortgage crisis had occurred, and people were.
It was all kind of bad things, Howard.
So I was in a position where I needed to look for an exit strategy, and I found my friend Rob Whittle at Williams Whittle, who was in a similar circumstance. He had a number of home building clients, and so we were able to merge our firms. I was able to bring 9 of my employees and all of my clients
to Virginia.
And we had
which is a new world for you, of course.
Absolutely, and we were able to weather the storm actually pretty well during 3 years, and I was.
You did great. You stayed alive.
I was able to.
The girls were still in school.
Absolutely, and I was able to continue my career in advertising, and also to close the Bomstein agency properly, and to give my clients an opportunity to have continuity. In fact, one of my clients, Kathy Baum, who represented a builder, said to me, the most interesting thing about this change, Howard, is I felt like all you did was really move your office. So it really was a smooth transition.
Howard, I lived through it with you from the outside looking in, but there are a lot of people in your position took the same route at the time, but they left a lot of bad checks around. It's happened. It happens all the time in advertising. No. You know it, I know it.
No, I did not do that.
And you didn't do it, and that's to your eternal credit.
I think it worked out. It was I was very lucky.
No, luck had nothing to do with it, Howard. You didn't stiff anybody.
Well, except
except me, but you've done that before, so I'm used to it. But we're going to take a break here now, Howard, and then get to your new life, which started before your present life. This is Andy Ockershouse, and this is Our Town.
This is Sonny Jorgensen. Got a confession to make. I let my wife drag me to one of those Mike Collins estate planning seminars. Like I don't have enough on my plate with a certain football team. Actually, it wasn't too bad. In fact, we both learned a whole lot about how to protect our kids and grandkids down the road and to take care of ourselves right now. So if you get one of Mike's invitations in the mail, go. I'm glad I did. Get all the information and register online at MikeCollins.com. That's MikeCollins.com.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen. Brought to you by Best Bark Communications.
I'm with Howard Bomstein, and we're talking about he folded his advertising agency, merged with one in Northern Virginia, switched to Northern Virginia, and then decided that he wanted to come back to our town. How did that happen, Howard?
Well, I had a 3-year agreement with Rob that had come to expire, and so I needed to find an alternative. And I looked around, was there some other advertising opportunities? And most of my employees that had joined Williams Whittle had drifted off, and there was a little bit of a different culture for us. And,
it changes, Howard.
Yeah, and it was, I think it ended well, I think is the best way I can describe it. It ended very well for everyone concerned. I think I was able to help Rob sustain his business. I was able to close my business and move forward. One of the clients I represented for many years in the Bomstein agency was the Washington Times. The Washington Times became my client in 1999, and so in the transition to Williams Whittle, they joined us at Williams Whittle. My client at the time was a gentleman by the name of Tom Culligan. Tom had come from the Chicago Tribune.
A newspaper man,
and his career also had been in Southern California for a long time.
Correct.
In the Orange County area, and from the marketing and sales side. And he was the chief revenue officer. And when I told him of what was going on, he said, you know what, why don't you come into the Times and you'll be our marketing department, just as you have done from the agency side. And instead of paying an agency, we'll pay you.
You're inside man.
And be an inside guy, and you can help us maybe also on the with advertising agency liaison, help us with our
you
brand,
need the market,
maybe
you
do
need
some
the people.
Exactly. And I worked with Tom for only about 9 months before his role was changed from chief revenue officer to consultancy. And I saw that as kind of handwriting on the wall and said, maybe my tenure here is going to be also brief. So I reached out to a dear friend of mine, Ethan Selzer, at the Washington Post, who I've known a long time. And
well, you did business with all these people.
Sure, because he was at one time the automotive manager. We did business for all of my automotive clients at the Bomstein agency. So Ethan and I chatted, and he said, I might have an opening in real estate.
Wow.
So, I mean, my clients during my tenure, I guesstimate sold probably, this is probably not an exaggeration, 100,000 homes. I worked on remember this, I worked on 181 condominium projects in my career. I represented every major builder at one time or another.
So
Pulte, Ryland, K. Hovnanian, just on and on and on.
The Briar Patch, man.
Richmond American.
Great.
Just about every major builder. So I had a lot of contacts in that world. I knew a lot of folks. So ultimately, Ethan offered me this opportunity to come in. I met with my director, a fellow named Mike Cerrito, and I went to the HR department. I think I set a world's record for getting into the Washington Post of a little less than 6 weeks.
Yeah, because they vet everybody.
I remember I went into the HR guy and I gave him my resume, and the guy, really, really nice fella, he looked at it and he said, well, it seems to me, sort of matter of fact, you're quite qualified for this position.
Maybe overqualified.
So anyway,
this was the old Post. This was the Donald Graham Post.
Correct. It was still the Donald Graham Post, but shortly after I arrived, it was sold to Jeff Bezos.
The Bezos Post.
And when I arrived, the real estate was in free fall. Most of the builders would not do print. They didn't believe in print. They didn't believe in the Washington Post, believe it, our audience. And we only had one home builder who was a consistent advertiser, Toll Brothers. Today, I have close to 35 active home builder advertisers in the real estate section, and primarily because we determined what builders were willing to pay for our audience and create a good section. This coming up weekend on Saturday, this coming Saturday, we'll have a 44-page section. We'll have about 35 advertisers.
You did it last weekend also, didn't you?
Correct. We're in the middle of our fall home guide, and the content is good. They're good stories. We have a buying new column, which talks about subdivisions. We cover the market. We talk about homes that are for sale. We talk about where we live. And it's colorful, it's well done. It's tabloid size. It's easy to read. And everybody I run into from time to time says to me, I really enjoy reading the real estate section, Howard.
Howard, you have proved that they ain't dead, as they say. But I told you that. I've been reading the Post my whole almost adult life, and I could tell by lifting up that section how big it was. I know when the papers, because I used to say the market. I could tell how great the business is by size of the Washington Post, Howard.
Absolutely.
Way back. I knew radio would be great if the Post was great.
All right. Can I tell a story about you, though?
No, Howard. This is about you. I want to know about you. And it also fooled the people at the University of Maryland and got a job as a professor.
I know. Amazing. Actually, this is cute, Andy. You'll appreciate this. So this past August 29th was my first class this semester, which also coincided.
How many 3 semesters you've done?
No, I've taught 7 times.
Oh, have you?
I teach
7.
only in the fall. My class is only offered in the fall. I teach seniors. And the class is called Design Applications in Marketing and Branding. So anyway, this fall, a few weeks back, when I started class, it was coincidental with my 50th anniversary of starting at the University of Maryland as a freshman.
Wow.
So standing in front of my class of 27 very bright seniors, they're design fellows, in the fellows program at the Robert H. Smith School of Business, I said, I'm pleased to tell you that I began my academic career here at the University of Maryland 50 years ago this month. And you're all probably looking at me and thinking to yourselves, how could he possibly still be alive?
That's what the kids think, Howard.
Right. But anyway, no, they're wonderful students. It's a great opportunity.
Well, this is the cream of the crop you're teaching. They're not...
Correct.
They haven't reached a certain level, correct?
Right. And we spend a lot of time learning about branding. We learn about brand promises.
Howard, you're amazing.
And we do class projects. We did a project last fall for the Orioles. Which was very well received. In the past, I've done projects for WTOP, for Court Furniture, and Pizza. This year, we're doing something for the Baltimore Child Abuse Center, and we're doing a project for the Washington Post on the Express newspaper.
Oh, how strange. When are you going to do something on our town? You got to give us a chance to be alive for a couple of years, and we'll be back, Howard. We'll not forget what you offer. Been great.
Well,
do you never run into George Solomon, one of your co-teachers?
Well, actually, I do.
On the Washington Post.
George actually is retired.
Yes.
So.
Well, you haven't retired.
So, but he, I see him at various sporting events. Certainly,
is your teaching in the same building where he teaches?
I think he teaches in the School of Journalism.
Yes, he does.
So that's a different building.
You're in the
I'm in the Smith School, which is just entirely marketing, finance, accounting.
And you're happy, and you don't miss advertising agency business. You don't have to carry people like you carried all those years.
Well, there's some aspects of it. I miss the new business aspect of it. I miss the challenges in competing for new business. That was always a very exciting.
Hard, but you have that now with the newspaper.
It's a selling environment, but it's a little bit different in terms of. But I love to compete.
That tabloid section is fabulous.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, Andy.
Well, I've been looking on the outside. I do not know the business, but I know the business of the Washington Post, and I know the Times. And remember, WMAL was the Washington Evening Star.
I do.
Evening Star Broadcasting Company.
It's funny, Andy. Every week in the real estate section, they list there's a very small masthead, and it says the real estate editor, which is Dion Haynes, and his contact information, and it says advertising manager Howard J.S. Bomstein, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that.
You become a peddler. I love it, Howard. All this highfalutin agency baloney. He ain't no better than the rest of us selling. I'm selling radio. You're selling newspaper. Janice is selling several advertisers. She started her own business.
Right.
Started in this business. Howard, you're a legend in our time.
I tried to persuade Janice, to get a real career, but she refused, and now she's in the advertising agency.
Yeah,
business.
But you were big help, Howard, and she's taken off. And this is so much. This woman's got so much going on. Besides me, it's incredible.
Well, because
you helped us, Howard, and you'll never forget that.
Instinctually.
I apologize for stiffing you, Howard, but I probably did the right thing at the right time. And then I had to come down and beg you.
I was going to say something about Janice instinctually understands marketing and advertising, and that goes a long way to figuring out how to help clients sell their products and services. So,
Howard, if you don't believe in your product, forget it. Get out of the business. Become a fisherman or something. But you believe in your product. Janice believes in her product. And I believe in our town. And it's so great to have you, Howard. You're a very dear friend, and I'm so proud of you and what you've done and all the places you've turned around.
I guess we should thank Drew Mills for mending our fences, and we've been friends now more than 30 years.
I think we thank Rigardi. He's always a part of our life.
All right,
but Howard, you're a wonderful man, and we love having you in our town, and I hope everybody, all your friends, tune in. We need you, Howard.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Janice.
This is Our Town. This is Andy Ockershausen.
You've been listening to Our Town Season 1 with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town podcast episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. We welcome your comments and suggestions on how you like the show or who you'd like to hear from next. Catch us on Facebook at Our Town DC or visit our website at OurTownDC.com. Our special thanks to WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. for hosting our podcasts.